Hey there, friends. Good morning and a happy Sunday. I'm King 5 meteorologist Ashley Ruiz with a look at your forecast as we head into the new work week. But first, you can enjoy your Sunday because we're going to have partly sunny skies, filtered sunshine at times, and temperatures will be mild. In fact, some spots in the lower and maybe mid 60s, depending on how quickly the clouds begin to thicken, all out ahead of our next system. It's a weak system, but it will bring some showers to the area later tonight and into Monday. But we'll have more rain moving in by the middle half and the second half of the work week and heading into the weekend. And I'll show you, and this is why. So we have that ridge that was keeping us nice and dry and pleasant this weekend. Well, this ridge is starting to flatten as we head into Sunday and Monday, and that's going to allow a weak system to move into the area. But then we'll get brief ridging building once again on Tuesday. It's not going to last before we get a troughing taking over. So you see how that ridge starts to move to the east, and then we get some deep troughing over the Pacific. So the jet stream will begin to dig, and that's going to send a couple of systems through the area into the weekend. That's really just going to control our weather pattern all the way into the weekend and keeping things unsettled. And what I mean by that, we'll have rain at times. As of now, it looks as though we'll have increasing rain in the back half of our Wednesday. The timing could definitely change between now and then, but Thursday looks to be the wettest day. We'll have showers at times Friday and into Saturday. And Monday, so tonight and tomorrow, the best chance for rain favoring the morning. Could have a couple of sprinkles later in the day, but the bulk of it should fall later tonight and into the first half of our Monday. 61 today, so the warmest day. Still on the mild side on Monday, but then Tuesday we start to cool things down once again, and then for the rest of the week we'll be near normal with rain in the forecast at times. Here's a look around Washington this morning. Once again, filtered sunshine, really a beautiful start to our day. We had fiery sunrises, just really a treat this morning. And now, at least as of 9:15, we've had sun, we've had clouds, and then all of that snow that I showed you yesterday atop Hurricane Ridge just melted because our freezing levels are coming up today about 13,000 feet, and then when you add moisture in the mix, our snow levels are not going to be all too low with this next system, and I'll show you coming up in a minute. But I also wanted to show you a bigger view of our Queen Anne camera because we can see Mount Rainier, although we can't see it as defined as we did yesterday. This time yesterday you could see the snow caps, but now filtered sunshine, kind of similar to yesterday where could look a little cloudy at times as those high clouds start to thicken, but still going to be a nice day. If you're headed to the Hawks game this afternoon, nice. We'll have temperatures topping out near 60 degrees, so really comfortable, especially for November standards. Highs around the area, you see upper 50s to the north, lower 60s for most spots, even close to the coast. It will be on the milder side and a little gusty at times, especially our typical gusty spots, so northwest of Everett and then through the Cascade Gaps as well. Monday morning's going to be very mild with showers, but then tomorrow we dry things out. We'll have sun breaks in the mix, maybe some drizzle into the afternoon, but once again the bulk of the shower activity will fall in the morning and temperatures will slowly start to fall. Here's a look at the futurecast, the new model data just rolling in not too long ago. And you see how the day as we go on through the afternoon, our clouds start to thicken, not just high clouds, but maybe some low clouds and mid-level clouds as well. Here comes a band of showers, possibly around dinner time, very light over the coast in the Olympic Peninsula, and then that will slowly move to the east as we head into maybe 9, 10, 11 o'clock or so around bedtime and therefore after, with most of the precipitation, the heaviest precipitation falling over the North Cascades and the foothills, but you see a couple of light showers even over Puget Sound. Then we get to the pre-dawn hours and really 3, 4, 5 o'clock o'clock. So most of you will be sleeping, but you see more showers start to move over the area, but the bulk of the moisture is still north of Seattle, and that's where we'll have the potential to see more accumulating rain, whereas here in Seattle, more than likely a 1/10 of an inch, maybe less for some spots. And then into Monday morning, you see that was around commute time, 6, 7 o'clock or so. That's when we'll start to see all of this taper off, but still I would plan on some damp roads. Here's later in the morning on Monday and into the afternoon. We have clouds, low clouds and sun breaks, and you saw a little bit of green just mixed in. That means essentially some sprinkles, nothing major, not expecting accumulating rain, if not anything major by any means. Then we get into Tuesday, starting off with some clouds. We'll have a mix of clouds and sun, and then into Wednesday, that's when we'll get a push of moisture. And that was our in-house high resolution model. This is the European model, so it's not high resolution. As we get closer, we'll get a better feel of just how much moisture moves in Wednesday. Is Wednesday going to be a drier day, or is it going to be a wetter day? But for now, looks as though maybe a couple of light showers during the day Wednesday, and then later on Wednesday, so we're talking late Wednesday night, and you see how some spots, especially the Olympic Peninsula all the way up to the north, they're getting some rain, but then it starts to increase and spread over the area on Thursday as we get this low spinning over the Pacific. Still a little early to say where it's going to push inland, but either way, it's still going to send rounds of moisture over the area Thursday, Friday, and then into Saturday. Over the span of the next 7 days, rain totals look to be maybe 1/2 of an inch or greater for Puget Sound, but you see the highest numbers over 1.5 inches, over 2 inches, really going to be over the Cascades, and then, as always, the Olympic Peninsula and the coast. And I mentioned snow levels earlier. So Monday, with snow levels coming up to about 8,500 feet, freezing levels since we don't have any precipitation today, 13,000 feet, but you add moisture into it and precipitation, that's when we call it snow levels. So 8,500 feet. So not going to have any snow falling on the passes, and not even really Hurricane Ridge or anything like that. It's going to be the higher elevations. Then we start to see maybe a little bit of precipitation up in the mountains on Tuesday, about 5,000 feet then. But the best chance for us to get some of that moisture is going to be Wednesday, Thursday, and then into the weekend. It's really not until Friday until we see our snow levels come down to pass levels. So Stevens Pass may get a couple of inches by then. This is through next Saturday, and you see Paradise, Mount Baker, the higher mountains, and that's when that's where we'll get the better chance for more than 6 inches of snow, and especially later in the week when we get some of that the more moisture and more of the liquid water to fall, if you will, which that graphic I showed you, the rain estimates, that's liquid water. And so most of the week it's going to fall as liquid and rain instead of snow. But then you see maybe a couple of inches closer to Stevens Pass by the time we get to Friday and Saturday, when those snow levels finally start to come down. Let's talk about the Seattle rain totals, because November tends to be our wettest month. By the end of the month, on average, we usually get about 6.3 inches of rain, and that's over the span of a 30-year average. And December still over 5 inches, same for January, and then it starts to kind of level off. Now, we're doing really well in terms of our rain totals so far this month. So we're almost an inch above where we should be this time of year. We're already at 2.3 inches. And so for today's date, we typically have 1.6 inches. Again, that's on average. And even through the end of the month and closer to Thanksgiving, or the second half of the month, this is the Climate Prediction Center 8 to 14 day precipitation outlook. November 17th through November 23rd, saying above normal precipitation. And remember, this month tends to be wet. And so above normal, that could mean, or near above normal, favoring that could likely mean just a wetter than normal weather pattern. The coast typically already on the wet side to begin with, so equal chances of below normal or above normal. But again, typically our wet month. And we don't have any major cold in the forecast. I'm talking lows well below freezing or anything like that, or highs that are cold, not for the next 7-10 days plus. And so it's really going to be more temperate, what we're used to this time of year in the Pacific Northwest. And in terms of the rain, we'll be able to fine tune the forecast as we get closer to Wednesday and especially Thursday, where we could have rain and gusty conditions once again. And don't forget, you can always find the latest forecast, a written discussion from the weather team on king5.com on our weather page, King 5 Plus, our YouTube page, our app, and then of course on TV as well.